Hi guys, it's Coach Pat from the Rant. Before we get to the Rant, let's talk a little bit about our sponsor, Premier Football Consulting. These guys do a great job of placing football players throughout the country at great programs from Division I to Division III. No one does it any better. But instead of me telling you about it, how about you hear from the CEO, Nico Pappas. Nico, tell us all about it.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Rant. My name is Nico Pappas. I'm Coach Pappas' son. I'm also the director and one of the founders here at Premier Football Consulting. Our team at PFC has been around for 23 years and is one of the largest football consulting groups in the country, as we've helped over 1,000 players and their family navigate this competitive, confusing, and costly recruiting process in an effort to find a great college fit. Our team consists of 15 former players and coaches that have experience at the FBS level, the FCS and Ivy League level, as well as the small college high academic landscape. Since the advent of the transfer portal, the NIL, and in the post days of COVID, this college recruiting process has become crazier than ever. It's confusing, it's competitive, and most importantly, it's costly. The PFC has stayed on top of all of these trends and has the ability to leverage our experience, our knowledge, and most importantly, our connections at the college level to give our players a huge edge in what will be a very competitive process. So if your son desires to play college football, I highly recommend that you get the help of an expert. When you go to buy a house, you look to hire a real estate agent. It's the same thing with the college recruiting process. When you are about to enter it, you should seek the help of an expert, and that's where the PFC comes in. So if you would be interested in a quick free consultation call, feel free to reach out to me at 617-308-7801 or shoot me an email at nico@premierfootballconsulting.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico, and thank you, Coach Pap. Now, on to the podcast. Cue the music, baby.
Here we go.
Here we go. Folks, welcome to the Rant. We are fired up for the Rant. We have an unbelievable guest today. Matt Hasselbeck is on with us. I'm co-host Coach Pap. We have the incomparable, the absolutely unbelievable. And he was so fired up about it. He got a haircut. We got Danny B with us today. And then, fresh off a long weekend up at UMass, Damian Parseghian is finally out of bed, and he is good to go, and we are ready for a great, great show.
I even had to pay an extra $5 for this, and it was an RFK Junior special.
Let me tell you something. You'll be eating healthy before you know it. It's unbelievable.
I don't know about that. Miracles don't always happen.
I just want the folks to know that the reason I'm wearing my Celts shirt today, Bird, of course, is all four of my teams lost this weekend, so I couldn't wear any of their gear. So, anyways, and the UMass fired Don Brown today too. So, I mean, I can't do any of that. Terrible. So, listen, but we're not going to let this thing slow us down a little bit. We got so much to talk about. It's all football. Danny, take us into the MIAA. Dame, what do you think? What's going on, Damian, with this thing?
All right, guys, we're approaching it, baby. We're now at the semifinals, baby, of the MIAA playoffs, baby. What do we think's going on? Let's start with D1, guys. Who do we got winning it all right now?
Well, I mean, you got the Big Four. Mm-hmm. You got the Catholic Conference Invitational plus I guess the outsider is Needham. And I know people are going to look at this and say, well, Needham, do they belong? Well, all I'll say is this. Last year, I heard the same stuff. Needham, I don't know if they belong. They took Xaverian to the wire. Well, 3-point loss. They proved they could play last year. I think they're a better balanced team this year. I don't think they're going to, people think they're going to walk in there against St. John's Prep and they're going to be like, oh my God. They're not going to be intimidated by them. They can play. I mean, if the Prep is not ready, and I'm sure Brian will have them ready, so that won't be an issue. But, Needham belongs. There's no question they belong in the Final Four.
Danny, we talk about it all the time about the Catholic Conference. We go back and forth, which is really fun. And we had Brian on a couple of weeks ago and stuff like that. But the reality is that, you know what, the state really, I mean, there's very few public schools left that are just purely, well, especially in Division I, but that are purely public schools that aren't school choice. Well, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Listen, you hate to call Needham a Cinderella, but I think they're a Cinderella right now. I really do. And I know you got Needham and King Philip in your top three. Aiden Williams, Division I back. He's done a fantastic job. Coach Kopsko has done a great job of getting these guys week in and week out. The Bay State League has proven to be a really good league, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that being said, I just think St. John's Prep is rolling right now, and it's going to be really, really difficult for them to beat them. Chris Vargas is just in a zone. And then defensively, they're all over the place. And I got to give a shout out to Jackson Tucker. Jackson Tucker is a linebacker that just absolutely makes plays all over the place. I actually recruited his dad, Billy, at Bentley. He was a great player at Reading High School, and then he came over to play at Bentley. But Jackson's a chip off the old block. Had a couple interceptions last week, and I'll tell you what, I know Needham is going to give him the best shot, but I think they're going to be tough to beat, in my opinion.
Well, Jackson Tucker's stock already went up when he said, "Who's the old guy with Danny V?"
Yeah, it's a true story. Jackson Tucker, he's a Rant fan, and he says, "Dad," he goes, "Dad, I listen to the Rant. It's Danny V and some old guy. I think he used to coach." I mean, it's unbelievable.
The kid's already earned all Scholastic honors.
He's definitely getting it. He's good.
Even if he didn't play, he's an all Scholastic.
He's a great kid. He's got a bunch of offers. He's got Bentley. He's got Williams. He's got Merrimack. He's a fantastic kid. Hey, buddy, what do you think of the other one? BC High Zavarian.
Oh, I mean, certainly it's a rematch. It's a match. Zavarian didn't like the way the first game went. They BC High really took it to him. And I think that really established BC High as a legitimate contender. They got off to a good start, but, when they beat Zavarian, the way they beat him, I think people said, whoa, Paul Zukauskas really has them going. I know both teams were missing guys. I mean, Vincent Booser is just such an important part of what Zavarian does. He's there this time. If BC High can beat him twice, and I tip my cap to the Eagles.
Yeah, I think Booser's going to give a big, big, big boost to them. But Carter Carroll, I mean, is playing his tail off, and I love what Paul does on offense. They run around defensively. I can't even pick. I call this one a pick 'em. This is going to be.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay, buddy. We're going Division II. What do you got?
Well, you got one semifinal is a rematch of last year's championship game. King Philip, who's won 23 in a row, takes on Marshfield. I think Marshfield will be better equipped this year to play them. Last year they came off such an emotional semifinal win over Catholic Memorial, the team that everyone cried about being in Division II. They don't belong. And hold on, Marshfield just scored again. But the fact of the matter is, I think this year, Marshfield, the emotions are not going to be there. They'll be better equipped to play them. That being said, I don't know if they can hang with them. I mean, I think King Philip really has it going. And I think CM in the other game playing Wellesley, John DiBiaso goes back to one of his old stomping grounds, Weston High School, where after St. Patrick's, he went to Weston for a couple of years. A quick great story is when Peter Foley, who was the athletic director there at the time, opened up the job. And I still crack up when he tells this story. He says, I've got guys coming in. And all of a sudden, I get this guy who comes in. I think he's Al Pacino. It's John DiBiaso.
He's got the scally cap on.
He blew his socks off in the interview. He says the funny thing is we weren't that good. A couple of days later, I'm walking through. He's got all the young kids in the cafeteria. Tells them, we're going to win a Super Bowl in 3 years. I said, what did you think? He goes, I thought he was full of shit.
Yeah.
3 years later, he won a Super Bowl.
He did. And he did. You're right. You can't forget the St. Pat's Day. So,
Nope.
Those were funny days. I was living in Water at the time.
The 19-game losing streak there.
Oh, I remember very well. And then, he went to Weston, and Cy Butler was a Metco kid and came in, and Cy was a great player. And before you know, Weston just blew up. Yeah. Yep. And that was the start of the whole thing.
Right.
Wellesley's quarterback, Lucas Brock, is that correct? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
That's close enough for me, but he's played well. Go ahead.
He's done an unbelievable job, and it's funny. Jesse Davis year in and year out. And I talk about it all the time. It's not easy for the places like, Wellesley, Needham, Duxbury, that, inherently lose private school kids left and right. And how these public school guys hang in there with it. Marblehead, Jimmy Rudloff. I mean, you hang in there with it, and you kind of just accept what you got to do. And now Jesse's in the state semifinals. Fantastic guy, does a great job over there. It's going to be a tough task against CM. But you know what? Again, the Bay State had some real metal this year. You never know. So it'll be interesting for sure. All right, D3, buddy, what do you got?
Staying with the BSC. I mean, we had talked about before the tournament, both of us liked Walpole, very dangerous team. And, again, one of the recurring themes we're getting is a lot of rematches from last year. And one of the craziest games last year was Mansfield and Walpole met in the first round.
Right.
Mansfield looked like they had the game won. They marched down the field with a minute left to take the lead, only to have Walpole come down and just, 30 seconds, boom, boom, boom. They're in the end zone. They win the game. Mansfield, I don't think it's one of his more talented teams, but I think Mike Redding's really enjoyed coaching this team because it's one of these years where all 11 guys have to play. If 10 guys play, they're not going to win. And the fact that they're in the semifinals, the guys really buy in. And Mike Redding he's one of the greatest. He's certainly in the top 10 all time.
Oh, all time, no doubt about it. Yeah, maybe top 5. Yeah. I mean, again, the guy just does it. Does it year in and year out. I think, man. But again, we've talked about it. Of all the divisions, I think that Division III division has just, again, wasn't stocked with a lot of teams and so on and so forth. But we had predicted it, Dan, that these teams that had played in the medal of the conferences. I mean, Catholic Conference got 4 teams left. Bay State's got 3. Hockomock has 4 as well. I mean, the cream is rising to the top. So I think Mansfield kind of hangs on that one.
And then you got the other one. You got North Attleboro takes on an undefeated Reading team that really had a battle to beat another Hockomock team, Milford, who had not really had a terrific season by their standards, yet they almost had that game. And they'll probably tell you they had the game won.
Yeah.
And Reading came back in the final minute to, win the game, remain undefeated.
Yeah, I think the Rocketeers take them. I mean, I just do. I can see 2, maybe 3 teams being in the Hawk teams being in the finals. Yeah. It says volumes about those schools down there. All right, buddy. Division 4, what you got?
Well, I mean, you start with it's the Patriot League taste here. You got Duxbury in one semifinal. You got Situate in the other semifinal. Situate takes on a Grafton team that shut out Marblehead. We'll talk about that in a little while. I'm not too happy about, what happened there. Tewksbury could be an interesting one. They've played in the tournaments before. Duxbury, they both have had success there. Duxbury, again, and, I think they're a little like Mansfield in that it's not one of their more talented teams, but they seem to play really well as a team.
Right.
And, Tewksbury, Brian Aylward, I mean, he's going to put out a quality product all the time.
Don't ever count Brian Aylward out. No. It's going to be a tough task for Tewksbury for sure. That Situate team, man, boy, I'm impressed with them. They're good.
Does Damien have any comments on Situate?
Yeah, they could pass the ball. They could run the ball too. Yeah, they could shut down a passing game easily. Yeah, easily.
Hey, Walpole,
they could sure as hell pick the ball off too. Yeah, let's hear it, Danny.
Other than that, they're just okay.
You know what?
Other than the things I said, they're okay.
This is typical Danny taking a cheap shot.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, let me tell you, there's no one else.
I'm 4th though. I'm big enough to take it. I'm big enough to take it, Danny. All you got. Right here.
All I asked is how good they were. That's all. I mean,
they were a very good team. Very good team.
There's no one
really outmatched Wayland easily.
Yeah. It's listen. Those are going to be 2 really good matchups. Listen, I want you to hold it right there. I literally have a Frenchie wrestling match. Hold on, don't go anywhere. Dave, hold on.
I'm holding.
Come here.
Oh, Jesus.
They
I didn't know what he meant at first.
You had to think about it. You had to think
Well,
about
I definitely did.
I got one of them.
it. Yeah.
This Frank the Tank.
Yeah, Frank.
Frank,
You
stop
gotta get a smaller one like Dan Campbell had.
Oh, Campbell. And then the Rock is running around too. Come here, Rock. Come here. He's out. All right. We're back to action. Let's go. Let's get back to action. Division 5, buddy.
A couple of interesting games, get rematch. Foxborough, Hanover met in the Super Bowl last year. Foxborough had their way with them. I think, the way Foxborough is playing right now, they've done what all coaches want to do. You want to peak at the right time. They're certainly peaking at the right time. I mean, I would be very surprised if they lose that one. The other game I think is going to be very interesting. A lot of people don't know much about Old Rochester, but, Gavin Martin has had a phenomenal season, and they'll go against the Shawsheen team. And, every time I say, this could be, Shawsheen's going to get pushed this time. And Newburyport is a pretty good offensive team. They fight the goose egg at them.
Shawsheen, we talked about it a couple weeks earlier, Dan. I honestly, and I've given it a lot of thought, they literally might be the best folk school in history. I mean, football. I mean, now they got to keep going. That's for sure. They got to keep going. They got to win. And you're right. Old Rochester is one of those teams. But I mean, whether it's Jake Banda, Dylan Pratt, we talked about it last week, Danny. They start 8 wrestlers on defense in like 5 state champions. I mean, and it all starts with Sid Tilsley. I mean, the kid's thrown for 5,000 yards. He's rushed for 2,000 yards. I mean, and then defensively, he's got 4 interceptions. He's returned 3 punts for touchdowns. Danny, when we talk about player of the year, I mean, Sid Tilsley really has to be in that discussion.
I agree. He should be in the equation. No doubt about it.
What he has done. And again, he's an All-American wrestler. I think Shawsheen hangs on that one. And again, I do believe, I think it's going to be a Foxborough Shawsheen game, which I think is going to be an absolute war. But, they both got to get by some really good opponents this week.
Exactly.
All right, buddy. Division 6.
Division 6, Fairhaven, who's probably still trying to catch their breath after the Linfield game last week, or needing overtime to beat a very good Pioneer squad, 36-34. Shout out to Justin Marcus, who broke the state record, 103 career touchdowns. Just an incredible. And they're going against a Swampscott team who needed all of the 48 minutes to knock off Stoneham. Some people in Stoneham might think, probably not the fairest outcome, but we'll leave that at that. And the other semifinal, you got Hudson, who's got this kid, Jake Attaway, who's been like a human highlight film. I mean, every week you look at his numbers, and it's like he's really going up on the state all-time list, 10,000 career yards, and they've really pounded everyone. Be a good test. Norwell is not a bad team out of the South Shore League. I could see, I think Norwell can hang with them.
So I'm going to start with that way. Again, it starts with Jake Attaway. I've watched a bunch of his tape this week. Really talented kid. And I've seen a couple of his interviews. Appears to be a wonderful kid too, which is great. And, they're really lighting it up. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the weather this weekend is supposed to be kind of lousy, right?
I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay. Is it going to be 82 and sunny?
It will not be 82 and sunny. That I know for sure.
As he coughs. But, and then let's go down. I mean, Fairhaven, Fairhaven had problems stopping the pass, and Swampscott can throw it a little bit. It might be the matchup that really is not what they're looking for. And again, Coach Bush, first year as the head coach at Swampscott, has done a fantastic job. And this is taking nothing away from the Swampscott team, nothing. But I'm just going to say I watched the game. 3 pass interference calls in the last drive is just unless they're just blatant calls, it's just outrageous. I mean, again, taking nothing away against Swampscott. They played their tails off, and it's great. But I'm just saying that as a football fan at any level, 3 pass interference calls, I'd say one was definite, and the other two were really, really shaky, including the last one. It's just unfortunate that you don't let the kids win the game. I've talked to a million referees, basketball guys, football guys. You know what? At that point, you got to let the kids win the game. That's just my editorial on the game. Again, so anyways, but like I said, hats off to the Swampscott kids, and best of luck as we move forward. All right, buddy, Division 7.
Well, Mashpee carries the banner of Eastern Mass. They're the only ones left. They play Clinton in one semifinal. Mashpee, we've talked about them. I think they, the type of team, they played a lot of guys last year out of necessity due to injury, and they're reaping the benefits now. That should be an interesting game. The other one is the La Chapelle Bowl, Uxbridge versus Northbridge. I mean, to me, I've said all along, I think the championship goes through Uxbridge, and they haven't done anything to change my mind.
I'm going to start with that one, Danny. You're right. The La Chapelle Bowl. I mean, I know nothing about both squads. I just know that they're going to be well coached, and it's going to be like the Massachusetts version of Hoosiers. I mean, it's going to be really cool game.
Great call.
But listen, let's talk about this Mashpee team. Okay, they got 18 seniors. They get guys that play their tail off. The coach's son, Ryan Trivieri, he's a hell of a player. Okay. There's a kid named Max Smith who's playing defense. He's averaging 10 tackles a game. I watch Mashpee because I'm an old Cape Cod guy. It's where I started I think they are a complete team. All right. And, it's going to, again, you know what? They're going to be the pride of Eastern Mass pulling this thing together against Central Mass, but I would love to see them move forward. It should be fun. 18 seniors, which again, for a school that size, doesn't happen all that much. All right, buddy. Division 8.
Well, we got the big one in the top end of the draw. Randolph Neshoba Tech. What a game. What a game. That's a game that you probably should have at Gillette. I mean, those two, Randolph has just destroyed a lot of teams, and Neshoba Tech undefeated going in. I mean, classic matchup. It's like you said, it's just a shame that it's in the semifinals instead of the final. The other side of the draw, you got Carver and West Boylston, who played in the Super Bowl last year. West Boylston rolled to an easy victory. I mean, I would say they're the favorite in that one. I think the other game, I really think is a toss-up.
You know what? Again, I got Randolph, and the bet is still. We'll tell you the score next week. Going into the finals, but I got Randolph. But Danny Smith has done it. We talk about a tech school. Danny Smith has done an unbelievable job out in the show. I mean, undefeated, but they got their hands.
Hold on, what's it? Danny Kelly.
I mean, you know what? Once we get past the Armenians and the Italians, I mean, Kelly, Smith.
I want to take care of you. I mean, you say I never take care of you.
The Irish guys. We all grew up with them. Anyways, no, but Danny Kelly, I mean, went in there and has just, taken control of that school in the league. So, I mean, just a fantastic guy. In Carver, the winner of the Cranberry Bowl. So, they got all the box. Just one little public service announcement here. And again, as we move forward out of the MIAA, it's really interesting that, again, and we'll talk about it in the offseason, Danny, it's not just the Catholics. There are so many different type schools now in the MIAA. I really think there should be some thought. Very few schools left. Very few are schools that just are playing with their kids. I'm not saying this is wrong, but we have the Catholics. We got the school choice. We got the schools with Metco. I mean, and if I've done my math correctly, there's only a few, like King Philip doesn't have any of that, but they have 3 towns. So again, in the off season, we'll figure the whole thing. We'll figure out what direction we should give our opinions to the MIAA. Dan, you think they'll take that?
Oh, I'm sure they're all ears.
Oh yeah, they'll listen to us.
Yeah, of course they will. Why wouldn't they? Everyone's listening.
I would listen to myself.
Dan, what do you got? What's going on next, buddy?
All right, guys, let's switch leagues into the ISL, guys. We had the NEPSAC Bowls this week, guys. Let's talk about it.
Well, I was up for the St. Paul's BB&N matchup at BC. Two undefeated teams, league champions in the Evergreen in the ISL. And boy, what a battle. I mean, what an absolute battle that was. Back and forth, great teams, great coaches, great venue. In the end, St. Paul's made, quite frankly, won the turnover battle. They didn't turn it over at all. BB&N turned it over once or twice and ended up winning the game late. They've got a fantastic quarterback named Weber Marks, a kid from Wellesley. But he's only a sophomore, 6'5", one wide receiver, 6'6". He's going to Harvard to play tight end. The other wide receiver, 6'8". He's going to Princeton to play basketball. He's the son of the Husson College football coach. But I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed that game. It was back and forth. I got to meet Matt Fell, Danny. What a great kid he is.
My condolences.
Oh, no, that kid's a good kid, Danny.
Oh, he's terrific.
And he puts up with you.
I hope he doesn't hear this. Yeah, well, I give him credit for that too.
I mean, between him and Kyler, no one else really likes you. I don't know if you know that.
So, I could see why.
So
I bring out the worst in everyone.
So that particular bowl, Danny, was great.
Yeah, I was flicking back and forth, saw some of the other ones. Aside from BB&N, it was a great day for the ISL. I mean, Belmont Hill wins. Were you surprised at how easily they beat Worcester Academy?
Was not. And again, we'll do this a different show, Dan, when all the smoke is cleared in December. We'll talk about the levels and stuff like that. The NEPSAC this year tried something a little bit differently because it's been real. The postgraduate schools have taken such a giant leap over the regular schools.
Right.
The Choates, the Brunswicks, the Deerfields and those type schools, Williston, Phillips, Exeter. So this year they tried a new thing where the ISL played the Evergreen League. The two champions, fantastic game. Evergreen wins. The other four are blowouts. So it'll be interesting if they stay with it moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at it, the one team I almost felt badly for was St. Sebastian's.
100%.
I mean, you look at that, they lost 3 games. They lose to Tabor on a Hail Mary. They lose a 10-7 game to Belmont Hill where they, turnover battle. They lost that one. And the other one was to BB&N. I mean, at the end of the year, they were probably, you probably were playing better than Belmont Hill, to be honest with you.
They're better than Nobles. I mean, better than Nobles. And Tabor, I mean, like I said, it was I agree with you with that. Again, and again, it was the NEPSAC tried something a little bit different with some automatic bids with some of the leagues. But I think they got to go back to the drawing board because if you were going to let I'm not big into letting 5-3 teams in, but the first 5-3 team that should have got in was St. Sebastian's.
Yeah,
unreal. All right, Dame. Let's move on. Where we going?
All right, guys, we're getting closer and closer to the first ever 12-team national college football playoffs, guys. How excited are we? And guys, how is this going to compare to March Madness?
If I can start off, Danny.
You may.
Because I'm going to give you the NFL because you can't wait to talk about Dan Campbell running it up. But anyways.
Obviously, you talked to Carla before the show started. She was not happy with her comment was, when is enough? But I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
I know for a fact I've talked to some brass people in the NFL. NFL's afraid. And I mean, and again, I'm a huge advocate of what the NFL has done. There is nothing that shuts down Sundays. No longer church. Nothing shuts down Sundays like the NFL. And now they're going every single day of the week. But I'm telling you, the NCAA FBS football has won the Excitement Bowl. They have won it, okay? And, the NFL, and we're going to talk about that in a second, they better get their acts together because much like how March Madness kicks the NBA's ass, this playoff system, guys, when you get out of New England, when you get out of major cities, I'm down here in SEC country. People talk college football more than they talk pro football. And oh my God, I think this is the best thing that ever happened to college football. I mean, the three teams that you said were untouchable. I don't want to say it, Dan, but you know what? He'll rub it in when he's right about everything. It was Texas.
It's frustrating when you're always right, though. I mean,
Texas struggles, Oregon, and who was your other one? Who was it?
Ohio State.
Ohio State. I mean, but still, it's going to be fun.
What I think in the old days, if you were like 16 in the country, yeah, you're having a good season, but you're trying to figure out, are you going to wind up playing in the Sun Bowl or whatever it's called now, the Pup Tots Bowl? Now, if you're 16, Colorado is 16 in the country, 1 or 2 more wins, and they could be in the playoffs. And I think, and it's not just Colorado because I like Coach Prime, but there's a lot of Colorados out there. Teams that have, from Boise State, another one. Army. I mean, if Army somehow can beat Notre Dame next week, they would make an argument that they should be in there.
Of course. And I mean, how exciting is that? I mean, since when are we in week, 11 or what in college football? And we are just loving every single weekend. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I had to take a little break Sunday morning. I mean, I had the bowl up there and then got back. And then as soon as I get back, I'm watching Tennessee, Georgia in the backyard. The backyard, Dan, it was 78 degrees.
All right. Congratulations.
What was your backyard?
I don't know. I don't even know if I have a backyard. I haven't been back there in a while. It's too cold.
But anyways, I'm ODing on college football. I mean, it was just unbelievable. So, again, I think it's fun. We're going to have a lot. As soon as the high school stuff, we'll have a lot of fun with the college stuff going forward. So.
Absolutely.
All right, Dan, where are we going?
All right, guys, we're taking it back down to the good old NFL, baby. Eventually could be the second football league. Who knows with the NCAA, starting to kick their ass. But, guys, let's talk about the NFL, especially the drama going on in the NFL, guys. What the hell's going on?
Go ahead, Danny.
I mean, I think it looks like there's 3 or 4 teams that have separated themselves. But I think now you're seeing a lot of teams that are, 4 and 7, you're still in there. 5 and 6, you're in there. 5 and 5. And one thing I think you're starting to see is how much coaching makes a difference. You look at the Chargers. I mean, team that's always had talent, but have had horrible coaching. I don't even think they've had the talent they've had in recent years, but they've got Jim Harbaugh in there, and he's quirky. There's no question about it. But I'll tell you, they've bought into him big time. Denver, I mean, I'm not a big Sean Payton guy, but they're bought into him. They're winning. Washington, Dan Quinn, another one, 7 and 4. I mean, even Atlanta, I mean, they're only 6 and 5, but they're 2 games up in their division. Even though they don't have the guy, if they had the other guy, they would probably be undefeated right now, but that's all right.
Hey, Dan, there's an opening at UMass for our boy. Think he'll take that job?
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's get Belichick at UMass.
You'll bring Nick Saban back.
Listen.
Come on, they'll build up the program. Make it a TV show. He loves media.
Yeah, you're in. You know what, Danny? I love you to death, but you're the typical NFL fan that's just looking for crumbs at this point. I think the NFL should turn into the NDL, okay? The National Drama League, because you know what? There's no drama league. I'm looking here. Do you know that the top six seeds in the AFC all have over a 90% chance of being in? So basically they're clinched. Then you got the Broncos that right now is as a 67%. The AFC and all is basically done. Why? I mean, we said at the start, Dan, there are some really good teams, but in my opinion, there's never been so many bad teams in one year than there are this year. And they are going to struggle. You mark my words, these last 7 weeks, they are going to struggle to make us believe that there's really important games to watch. I mean, the last important game we probably watched, at least on the AFC side, was with the Chiefs and the Bills the other night.
Well, I can think of 7 more important ones myself. I'm just saying. I mean, well, 10 actually.
Danny, then when you look at the NFC, and I'm looking at it right now, I mean, the majority of those guys, are already in. It's crazy. I mean, almost every one of them. I mean, the 7 seed is the Commanders. They have an 81% chance of making it. The NFL has. I mean, this is not going to be a great watching the last 7 weeks. It's really.
I completely disagree.
Well, I mean, what drama do you see?
Well, decide if were the Lions going to go for 2 when they had 48 yesterday.
You know what? I love it. You are just.
Hey, listen, I'm sick of hearing about this. For 50 years, I've taken shit about the Lions. When people kicked our asses all the time, it was all right. They're the cute Lions. Get the bags over their heads. Now, when the roles are reversed, all of a sudden, all these guys, the Xavier McKenzie's, all these other teams, they're crying about, the Lions are kicking our ass. Why are they scoring so many points? F you.
Get up on the pulpit, Danny. Stand up.
Hey.
Take it with pride. Let's go.
Just like our leader said 4 years ago when everyone laughed at him, one kneecap at a time.
That's
at
right.
The end of the day, we're going to be the last one standing.
We will be biting kneecaps.
There you go.
Hey, Danny, by the way, did you know Darren Rizzi is a Fort Lauderdale guy?
I heard that. He's also a Dan Campbell clone.
Darren Rizzi was at the Pappas, one of the Pappas beach parties.
Well, then you got it. Why isn't he on the show?
Well, he's a little busy right now. A little busy.
You can get him on right now.
I don't think he's doing anything right now.
Yesterday. Monday's an off day. But you know what? I think a lot of teams are going to start looking at this, because they think this, the Dan Campbell, Jim Harbaugh, this rah-rah. You know what? It works if you get the guys to believe in you. And they believe in Campbell. They believe in Harbaugh. I think they believe in Dan Quinn. In Rizzi, I think New Orleans, I think they're buying into this guy.
Listen, Darren Rizzi was a fantastic player at Rhode Island, University of Rhode Island. He's been in the league for a long time. He's a great guy, great family. Rizzi's a fantastic guy. He's great. I would love for him to get the job down there. While we're speaking of jobs, I will bet you. Hey, by the way, Dan, yes. Huge thumbs up to the Venturas on the recommendation for Ravello's over in Watertown for Italian.
Hey, my cousin, that's all my cousin. She found it on Google. It's a meeting place. My uncle lives in Watertown. It's solid.
It was fantastic. It was great. But I'm going to bet you Ravello's because we got another bet for Runway 84. I'm betting you Ravello's double figure openings this year in the NFL. Want to bet?
I gotta look at that first before I.
All right.
Well, now you're counting how many have already got whacked? The Jets, New Orleans.
Yeah, that's 2. Yeah.
Anyone else get it?
Not yet. But they're
Jacksonville. I can't believe Doug
Peterson
didn't take 2 in the hat after yesterday.
If your buddy can't get a job this year, he's never going to get a job.
I think it sounds like he could get the Jacksonville job, but does he want it?
I don't know. He's 73 years old. Does he have a choice? I mean, what do you mean? Does he want it or not?
Marv Levy was coaching. How old was Marv Levy?
Not older than that. No, he's old. He's old. He's old for old. Yeah, he's old. All right, listen. All right, folks. Now we're coming to a special segment with our guest, and I'll tell you what, we've had Hall of Famers on here. We've had NFL brass and others. I'm not sure we've had anyone as good as this guy. Let's bring in Matt Hasselbeck.
Yeah.
Hey,
Matt. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Great to have you, my friend. Let me just go over. Everyone knows you. Everyone knows you from your career, but I think it's interesting for everyone to really know you from a perspective of a Bostonian. Guys, Matt went to Xaverian. Great player there. Went over to BC, where he was a tremendous player there. entered the NFL, 17-year career. You had 11 postseason starts. I mean, in the Super Bowl. And honestly, probably, Danny and I were talking, probably the best Massachusetts-bred football player of all time. And as great as he is as a player, he's a great guy. And I'll tell you what he's done as a dad. His two daughters, Annabelle and Mallory, both national champs, I believe, over at BC on the lacrosse team. And now his son, Henry, who I had the pleasure of having in our spring league, is the quarterback out at UCLA. So, Matt, we really appreciate you being here with us.
Wow, you're really kind. I'm not even the best football player in my family, so
I
don't know.
That's right. I
don't even know.
Was the
I
best.
don't even know. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to be with you guys. I'm coaching, and it's a grind. So, my eyes are like, just like barely staying awake. Just like my eyesight. I got to get either progressives or readers or whatever. I'm just looking at this film so much. So, I have a lot of respect for coaches. I always have, but even more so now that I'm kind of in the thick of it. And it's a lot of fun. It's really meaningful, but it's also a grind. No doubt.
Question I have for you is, when did you start to realize you wanted to coach?
I really had no plan of coaching. I was at Xaverian. My son Henry was, going to start there, and basically Al Fanaro was putting on like a 3-day clinic. I think that's kind of how you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to put on a clinic for kids in the area. And he said, "Hey, I'm short an O-line coach. Do you have anybody that you'd recommend?" So like, I'm an idiot. So like, I called Dante Scarnecchia. I'm like, "Hey, what do you think?" And he was like, "I'll coach your coach, but I'm busy. My summers are precious." And so, long story short, I was like, "Hey, Al Fanaro, hey, listen, I'll coach the O-line for the 3 days or whatever." And he was like, "Well, actually, the guy that's, coaching the quarterbacks is more of an O-line guy. He'll do that. You do this." And then I don't remember ever stopping. Like, I just thought it was 3 days, and it just never, we never stopped. So that's tricky Al Fanaro. He got me, but it was cool. It was a blessing to get to go back and coach kids at my high school. Al Fanaro was coaching there when I was in high school. So not a lot has changed in some ways. And that continuity is something that I think is undervalued. When you have the continuity with, coaches and kids that have gone through there, it's pretty cool.
How tough is it to coach? I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So Matt, you've coached in Massachusetts, you're coaching in Tennessee right now. Can you compare a little bit about, the level of play and the meaning of football down south compared to up here?
Just resources, I think. Like here, the schools here, they're very much, they understand like how investing in the football program can help the overall community, I think. So like that's one thing. And there's probably just less to compete with here in Tennessee. I think like you're competing with Cape Cod and Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. You're competing with hockey. You're competing with a lot of other sports in New England. And, I think that's just the biggest thing. But kids are kids. There's some great talent. Then there's some kids that won't play after high school, and that's okay too. Like, I just think there's just so many great lessons that come through the game of football or just sports in general. And it's all good. Like sometimes you discover that, you're out there playing and you get an injury as a sophomore and you have a rehab experience and you're like, you know what, I want to become a doctor and I want to be like the team doctor for the Patriots someday. Or whatever it is, we've got a film crew. Like when I was at Xaverian, we got a group of guys that fly the drone to film our practices. Well, we're near Norwood Airport. So like they got to call the FAA and get clearance to fly the drone. I mean, the valuable experience that these kids are getting, it's far better than the starting left guard who gets to pull on power. I promise you, but it's everyone's contributing to the success of the team. And I think there's a lot of stuff like that happens. And it's fun to be a part of it no matter what. If you're, you got your hand in the dirt, or if you're broadcasting the game for the student radio station.
Love it.
I was gonna, you got to coach Henry for the last 2 years. Was it tough coaching him, being the son?
Yeah, a little bit, but I've been around some guys. And Henry's freshman year, we lived in Nashville, his freshman year, and Trent Dilfer was his coach. And, for most of my career in Seattle, Trent Dilfer was my backup. And so like I would say something to Henry, I'd be like, all right, hey, this is a 7-step drop, one hitch, ball's got to come out. And he'd be like, yeah, whatever. And then Trent Dilfer would say it, the exact same thing. And he'd be like, yes, sir, Coach Dilfer. It was like, what is that? But I'd been around that. I was at a flag football game that Kurt Warner puts on with Michael Irvin. And Michael Irvin was talking about similar story. He said, I coach my son up how to play wide receiver. And he's like, whatever, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. But Larry Fitzgerald says the exact same thing. And he's like, yes, sir, Coach Fitzgerald. And Michael Irvin was like, do you not know that Larry Fitzgerald pays me to coach him in the offseason? Like, so it's fun things like that. But I'm sure I did that to my dad, when I was growing up. And it was a real joy to coach Henry. He's a great kid. He's a super coachable, and he responds really well to, I think, like tough. I want to say tough coaching. It's kind of what you get when you go to Xaverian. It's a throwback in terms of like, here's how we do things. No one gets special treatment. You could be the player of the week, and then you're carrying the water out the next day. Like it's just how it is. And I think he likes that. He's a gritty kid, but no, I was intentional about how we parented through that a little bit.
Now, in your experience, your high school career ended with a killer loss in the Super Bowl. Henry's career ended a little better than yours. But let me ask you this, because I was watching the game, and I saw they kept flashing you in the fourth quarter. I'm guessing you were probably more nervous in the fourth quarter coaching than you were when you played.
No doubt. I think every parent can like attest to that. It's probably the second most nervous I've been at a sporting event is that Henry Super Bowl there against St. John's Prep at Gillette. First would probably be my oldest daughter's freshman year when they won the national championship against Syracuse. I mean, I was a basket case, and I never really felt like I got nervous when I played. Like that's the funny thing. Like for sure, like after I took my first hit, I was good. But as a parent, and then even in terms of like as a coach too, like you're understanding. Where the weaknesses are, so to speak. And so you're like, man, I hope these kids are ready for this. I hope I prepared them. But it was a thrill. It was a lot of fun. And, I think that's the first time I ever got a win at Gillette, actually. I think it is. Like all my years in the NFL, never got a win at Gillette. So appreciate the boys from Xaverian coming through.
Yeah, we had Henry in the league. Remember, Matt? And I'll tell you what, to what Matt was saying, he was the youngest kid. I think he was in 7th grade at the time. Boy, I'll tell you, he came and he competed, and I'm so happy for his success. He's just a great kid. Before the show, I was just on the phone with Chris Shea, one of your old. I remember Chris from BC.
Yeah.
And Chris told me to say hello, and he now the senior vice president of the Chiefs. He's doing great.
He's a superstar. He was just on a podcast. I haven't listened to it yet, but one of the things that people don't know about Chris Shea, like he's got this really important job now with the Kansas City Chiefs, but he was the snapper. Tom Coughlin made him snap to the quarterbacks. And he's one of the best snappers I've ever I don't think he even played football.
No, I coached him. I coached him in high school, Matt.
Okay, he did. Okay, good. Well, he pretended like he didn't, and I think that's because he didn't want to be the snapper, which I don't blame him. But no, he's an incredible guy, like just an incredible guy, and that's an example of a guy that maybe didn't have like the size or the speed or whatever to play college football at a high level, but this was Tom Coughlin's right-hand man through college, pretty much, as a student and the student manager kind of guy. And then after school, and then obviously he's now with the Kansas City Chiefs, and Andy Reid would probably say similar things.
It's funny because Steve Spagnuolo is his friend as well, and he was down here in Lauderdale talking, and I said, "How's Chris Shea doing?" He says, "Chris Shea, he's the smartest guy in the NFL." That's what he said.
Yeah.
So going back to BC, Matt, you played for Coughlin. Did you play for Dan Henning as well?
I did. Yeah. I committed to Tom Coughlin, and about, 5 months later, he was gone. So that's kind of happens in college football a little bit. And so, yeah, most of my career was Dan Henning was the head coach.
He maybe it was me. I was just a fan of Dan Henning. I think he was a really underrated football mind. I mean, can you expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, for sure. He's a very good coach. I think he and I butted heads a little bit because I was immature, and I went there. Tom Coughlin was really who I committed to. Like I committed to BC, but like, I mean, it was really, my dad finished his career with the New York Giants. Coughlin was a coach there. That was a strong relationship that we had. Someone I respected a ton, kind of considered myself like a Parcells guy my whole life. And that's what Tom Coughlin was. So when he left, the new head coach comes in, gets rid of the fullback. You know, it's like a lot of recruiting turnover. And it was kind of like, I think sometimes as an athlete, you feel like, well, this is this coaching staff's recruiting class and they care about that class and after. And whether that's true or not, I definitely felt that way. And I was probably immature with it, but the turnover was a real thing. And, you know, we struggled. I don't think we played in a bowl game. We played in the Aloha Bowl that first year, but then we just, you know, it was an uphill battle most of the time there. And, you know, a lot of great things though. And I've got nothing but great things to say about Dan Henning. He and I have become very, very close, like after college, but during college, it was like one of those things, like you don't understand that your teacher or your coach really wants the best for you. And you think like, why is this person like, you know, on me all the time? But at the end of this story, you kind of realize like, oh, because that coach or that teacher saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself at the time. And I'm really grateful for him.
That's great.
You know, going on now with your son, you know, you were heavily recruited as well. Your son was heavily recruited. The one thing Henry always said is that you basically did not get involved. You let him do his thing. Was that tough for you? Because he said actually the people who harassed him the most were the women around, the Hasselbeck women were the ones who harassed him more with the recruiting than you.
I think my girls are still mad at him for not choosing Boston College. No, you know what? Like I didn't get involved in any way. Like I didn't want any of my friends or anybody that I knew to recruit him because they knew me. I just don't think that's healthy. You know, a lot of dads get over involved in recruiting. I sort of wanted to be under involved. You know, and I don't know if that's right or wrong, but you know, he's the one that's got to be there. He's the one that's up at 5 o'clock in the morning and getting home at 7:30. Like he's the one that's got to do that. So I want him to be the guy that, you know, has ownership in the decision. And I think he would have preferred if I said, hey, like, I really think you should do this. But I don't know. That's kind of how my dad did it for me. And I thought it was part of growing up a little bit. Like you got to make some tough decisions with real consequences. You got to say, you know, by saying yes to somebody, you're saying no to somebody else. But we'll see. It's a different day and age, and you know, we'll see how the whole thing goes. But he's doing really well. It's just out there for Parents Weekend, and I'm really, really proud of him.
That's great. That's awesome.
You know, as far as, you know, staying in the family, I heard you got a heck of an offer to go down to coach at Ensworth, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if I really even got the offer. I just said I'm doing it. So it's pretty cool. My brother Tim's the head coach down here at Ensworth High School. My dad's helping coach the tight ends. I'm the offensive coordinator. Our quarterback is my brother Tim's son. So my nephew Taylor, he's having a heck of a year. Yeah, we actually just finished our regular season. We finished undefeated, 10-0, first time in like, I don't know, like a lot of years, 2012 or something crazy like that. And we got a first round bye this week. So I was able to go out to Parents Weekend, but got a huge playoff game this weekend against a big rival. And, you know, the stakes are high, pressure's up. So we're going to have to be ready to go.
Now, do you attribute that to the coaching?
You know what? I do think that coaching matters. Like I really do. But to me, this is like a football program. This is a character development program disguised as a football program. And I think like what's cool, like when you start winning or you have success, the kids listen to you more on the life lessons, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it's awesome that we're winning. But like, it's not really about that. Like it's part of it. And it's more fun. And, you know, I just like anything that you're doing, you like to do it to the best of your ability and, you know, have fun and be creative and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, that's not really the main goal for us, I don't think.
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. I've been monopolizing. Go ahead.
That's okay, but that's what happens all the time, man. It's unbelievable. That's what I put up with.
I muscle them out.
Well, let's transition to the NFL. I know you're taking some time off from being an analyst. I mean, you were great. I mean, one of the few guys I really enjoyed listening to. There's a lot of talk now. Brady's kind of chimed in on quarterback play now and stuff like that. I mean, how do you feel about like the young quarterback play? And is it different from when you were in the league?
No, I think it's pretty similar. You got some people who really do a good job developing quarterbacks, and then you have other people that just totally screw it up. And so that's not new. I mean, that's been going on for a long time. I feel really, really fortunate to land where I landed. I wasn't a great college quarterback. We had a lot of coaching turnover. I think five different position coaches. Um, I threw more interceptions than touchdowns in college. I rushed for negative 200 and something yards in college. So to get drafted to the Green Bay Packers in the Ron Wolf, Mike Holmgren era, when Brett Favre was the starter, and I got to like just kind of learn and sit there and watch and do other things to make myself useful. Um, I learned a lot. Like they were paying me to be there. I felt like I should have been paying them. I've told people many times, like I didn't get to talk in the meetings. I was just allowed to be there.
Right.
And so I would write down the questions that I would ask if I was allowed to talk. And on the walk from the quarterback room to the locker room, I would ask the backup quarterback, Doug Peterson, I would ask him the questions, and if he was too busy, I would ask the other quarterback, Rick Meyer from Notre Dame. I'd ask him the questions. And those two guys were really, really helpful to me. And Brett was helpful, and Andy Reid was helpful, and Mike Holmgren was helpful. But again, like I was there for 3 years, and over the course of those 3 years, I learned so much, and I got bigger, stronger, faster. I earned the respect of my teammates. It was just great. It was great for me. And a lot of these young quarterbacks don't have that. They don't have that. And then they also don't have, I think, what the real important things are to play the position, which you hear guys like Tom Brady talk about. And then when you go hang out at the combine and you listen to scouts, you're talking about something totally different. And I think that's maybe part of where the disconnect comes up.
Cool.
Now was Holmgren in Seattle when they traded for you?
He was. So so my first year, maybe I'm the coach killer problem. Actually, I had all these coaches in college. I go to Green Bay. I have Mike Holmgren and Andy Reid's the quarterback coach. The next year, it's Ray Rhodes is the head coach and Mike McCarthy's the quarterback's coach. And then the next year, Mike Sherman was the head coach, and we had Tom Rossley and Darrell Bevel were the kind of the quarterback coaches. So, yeah, it was. So by that fourth year, Mike Holmgren's in Seattle. He traded for me. And I mean, I think people think like we knew each other. Like I knew him because he's Mike Holmgren. I'm not sure he really knew me, because when he was the head coach, I literally was like the fourth string quarterback. I was on the practice squad. I'd play scout team tight end during practice. I just was like there. I was happy to be there. Basically, I was allowed to be in the room is probably the best way to say it.
But that being said, the fact that when you're a fourth string guy and all of a sudden this guy that you claim doesn't know anything about you trades for you, you must have been like, whoa, maybe he did see something.
I put out really good film in the preseason for 2 years in a row. I think I led the league in passing the second year, and then the third year, I think I was number 2 in pat. Like I just had these great preseasons basically. And I don't know what to attribute it to. Maybe part of it was that Brett Favre spent his offseason in Mississippi. And so like OTAs and all that, I was the guy. I was also losing my hair at like a rapid rate. So I think all the young receivers like Donald Driver and those guys, they just assumed I was a veteran, but I was just a second-year player who was losing his hair, So I don't know. I mean, I feel very fortunate. It was definitely an answer to a lot of prayer, but I think all those guys in my draft class, we were all praying, and for some of us it worked out, some of us it didn't. But yeah, I was given opportunities, and I kind of made the most of them, and things just kind of went my way. So I'm very, very grateful.
Happened to us all, buddy. Happened to us all. Another one of my buddies got whacked today. Shane Waldron, I coached him, and he coached me, and just a fantastic guy. But like I said, you're a fantastic analyst. You know the game. You're a great guy. And now you're coaching high school football. If the opportunity came up, would you go back to the NFL as a coach?
I actually think in a weird way, it'd be easier to do that, because it's like it's like my comfort level. Like when I went back to high school, like, I don't think like you're a better coach because you're in the NFL than a guy that's in high school necessarily. Like you can be a great coach. You're just a great coach. There's some really bad coaches in the NFL. But I just think my comfort level, like these hash marks in high school football are still screwing me up. Like this federation rules, like, man, it's nuts. And so I struggle with hash marks. No, but I just think like coaching is coaching. And Mike Holmgren used to say all the time, when I'm looking for a coach, I'm not really looking for a coach. I'm looking for a teacher. I'm looking for a communicator, someone who can really do that. And like on his staff was always these guys that started as high school teachers before they were even coaches. Mike Holmgren would be the same thing. And so, yeah, I think that's, I don't know. We'll see. My biggest thing right now is just having the opportunity to make it to my daughter who's at Boston College, her lacrosse games, hopefully see Henry's college football career. So when I'm thinking about what fits that, like if that's my number one priority, you know, it shrinks the careers that you can choose, I think.
Yeah. I'd love to see it, but I totally understand your family commitment.
Yeah. And like, you know, the way football is right now, there's so many media outlets to kind of talk about football. I'm on the Colin Cowherd show every Monday, kind of just like a little dabble in the NFL type stuff. And I did a big thing on ironically Shane Waldron and the Bears and Caleb Williams and all that kind of stuff. And everyone's like, oh, fire the coach. He was sacked 9 times. It's like, turn on the tape. Like turn on the tape. If you're going to assign those to the offensive coordinator, you know, and some of those sacks are like shared responsibility, but like, that's the great thing about coaching football. Like if I say this a lot, like if there's a dropped pass, people's like, oh, whose fault was that? Was that the quarterback's fault or the wide receiver's fault? Well, if I'm coaching the quarterback, hey, quarterback, put it on the front number, not the back number. Receiver, if I'm coaching you, hey, did it hit your hands? Catch the ball. Yeah. You know, so like whose fault was it? Right. It's all of our fault. We're doing this together.
Right.
And so it's just the hard thing about the NFL is that sometimes someone's the scapegoat, or the next day you're on all these talk shows and people are trying to have a hot take. The nice thing about high school football is we were trying some stuff that's never been tried before. And I promise you, Stephen A. Smith's not like calling me out for it the next day. Probably just parents actually, but no, it's there's something awesome and very pure about coaching high school football.
It's great. It's great. Buddy, I know you probably got a lot to get going on and stuff like that. I'll leave you with this. Do you think the NFL's changed? You know, back in the day, you know, the Jerry Glanvilles and so on and so forth, it appears now that there's just so much pressure. All the coaches are under pressure, and it becomes, I think it's a little bit more of a players' league. I don't know. From when you were playing to now, do you think there's a difference?
I don't know if it's more of a players. I think the coaches have lost some power because they've lost their off season. You know, I was part of the lockout with the collective bargaining agreement with the players and the ownership. And really the group that didn't have a seat at the table were coaches. Like they had no representation. They don't have a union. They don't have a, like they're just like, you know, they found out at the end and they weren't happy, you know, and the way it kind of went down is like we were apart by like hundreds of millions of dollars as a league, you know, players and ownership. And the executive director of the NFLPA said, all right, guys, write down all the stuff that you would ask for that doesn't cost any money. And most of the player reps at the time were offensive linemen. And so those guys were like, well, shoot, man, if I didn't have to do so many 9-on-7s, I could play for 2 more years. And so we had a strong leadership from guys on the Indianapolis Colts, the New Orleans Saints, and some of these teams that practice not in pads a lot. And anyway, long story short, we went back to the owners and we said, all right, here's what we want. We want mandatory water breaks. We want 14 padded practices. We want 9-on-7 practice, but then you can take your shoulder pads off, no knee pads at practice, like just some stuff. And literally, I forget which owner it was. It might've been Jerry Jones. Like he was like, what? Yeah, fine. They have it, whatever. Like, I don't care. But the coaches were like, wait a sec. What am I going to do with a shortened off season? What am I going to do with no padded practices? Like water breaks. That's a sign of weakness. Like, it was just like this, like funny. Yeah. So I don't know. I let me say this, the game is safer. And that's what I care the most about. When I first got into the NFL, if someone got a concussion, it wasn't treated the way that we now know that it should. Now there's so many safeguards, and I think people take it seriously. And I take that very seriously as a high school football coach. I think that the health and safety part of it is the most important part. So that's something I'm really proud of, how the game has changed.
Thanks, buddy. Well, listen, we appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. I mean, this has been a thrill for me, getting to interview you and stuff like that. And I know Danny feels the same way.
I've done it. I've done it with him since 1992, so it's old hat.
That's right. That's right. Back when I had hair, Danny. Back when I had hair. No, so I will say this though. One thing coming here coaching in Tennessee, a lot of spread offenses here, a lot of speed. We're definitely like, if you turned on our tape, you'd see a lot of Zavarian. You're going to see under center. You're going to see power. You're going to see fullbacks. You're going to see. So it's pretty cool. We're taking defenders places they don't want to go, and that's to steal a line. But
one last thing, because when we met, when we did the story on the kids with you and what you need to tell people, your freshman team at Zavarian, what were you known for?
Yeah, well, this is Greg Camella, really. Our coach Phil Previty did a great job. We were 8-0, the team that never punted. But I'll say this. Coach Prev had us feeling like we probably were going to lose every single game. It was like this team that we're getting ready to play. I remember driving down to play LaSalle. I think it was LaSalle High School in Rhode Island. Our very first game. And man, I don't think I've ever been so like nervous, because I was like, man, he built these guys up to be monsters, giants. And it was good. That was a great experience. And like I said, Greg Camella was literally the best player that I'd ever played with in high school.
He's the best. I still pick up basketball and everything else. When you come back to Boston, Danny, that's what we'll do. We're going to do a live interview with Matt and Camella at Camella's restaurant. How's that sound?
I'm in on the Camella's part. I don't know if our memories are good enough, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, you guys are fine. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So much, best of luck to you. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Appreciate it. Down to Fort Lauderdale, at least when it's warm down here, for Christ's sakes. I just can't. Danny, you see it all the time. It's crazy. Basketball's worse because it's the winter. I can't take it any longer. Dame, put that on the agenda when we talk to the MIAA.
Oh, we will. Because we will be talking to the MIAA. We will. We'll just be waiting for a long time. We'll be in their waiting room for a while.
Well, you know what? We're just gonna go. We're just gonna show up.
We'll show up. No appointment. We'll show up.
We got some shout outs there, Dame.
Yeah, let's go right into shout outs, guys.
Well, I'm going to shout out. We've talked about them earlier. We've talked about them a lot. You got to love Shawsheen. I mean, they every time you think, early in the year when they played Wayland, I thought, well, Wayland, good team. This is going to be the week they may get exposed a little bit. They shut them out. Last week, Newburyport, a team that has scored, I think, 30 points in more than half their games. Think, well, maybe they don't beat them, but they're going to give them a run for their money. 42-0. I mean, it's just, Al Costabille's done a phenomenal job there, just like he did at Bishop Fenwick prior. And, you're doing it with a lot of these kids, are vocational kids. Many of them after high school, that they'll be working somewhere, probably making more money than me. Which isn't saying much, but that's, good for them. But what he's done is just an amazing job, and it really is like a family there. Good for Al.
Al Costabile is unequivocally the greatest guy of all time. For you folks that don't know him, Al's everyone's pal, and he's the epitome. People say nice guys finish last. This is a situation where nice guy is going to finish first. This guy is just phenomenal. Al is unbelievable. But you hit it on the head, Danny. Vocational, Dan, not only do they get great jobs when they're out of school, these kids are working in the trades during the day. I mean, they're out there, they're building houses, they're plumbing, they're doing all their practical work. And then they're coming in and they're working at it. They've got all the wrestlers out there. He's got all his ex-players coaching for him. You hit it on the head, Danny. It's family first over there. It's great. That is a fantastic shout out.
Thank you.
You always get your shout. You're good at that. All right. My shout out is, it is literally, we talked about Northridge and Coach LaChapelle, what he's done. I can't believe I'm going to say this. What Watertown field hockey is, it might even be even better. What Eileen Donahue has done at Watertown, the field hockey team, is unbelievable. I can't even get into the numbers, the amount of state championships. These girls, these girls who played for 4 years didn't lose a game. They gave up like 6 goals. It's just what And Eileen Dawn, she's wonderful. She's a nice gal. I mean, and she loves field hockey. It's her life. But, the town of Watertown is indebted to having her. They're talking about they have a new high school, they're taking nominations on who they should name the high school after. There's only one. You got to name it after the gym. You're going to name it after Eileen Donahue for what
I'd name the school after. I'd love to see the gym named after Steve Harrington.
Oh, Harry's the absolute greatest. I mean, unreal. Yeah. I mean, how am I going to argue with Harrington? Now you threw me in the mix. I got to go.
Well, you name the building after Eileen and you name the gym after Harry. Bang, we've settled it.
I like it. There you go. No, Harry's the best. But hats off to the girls, Watertown. And by the way, just the nicest little kids of all time. They run around, they do it the right way. They're good kids and all that. Unlike the Detroit Lions, they don't rub it in, Dan. They don't rub it in.
Oh.
You know what, Dane? It's unbelievable. Danny's looking forward to the last 7 weeks of the NFL so they can kick everyone's ass. Someone's having a good time. At least someone's having a good time. All my teams lost this week.
I'm a Patriots fan. What do I got to cheer
Not having any fun. It's all about Danny and his fun time. Yeah. All right, folks, this has been great. Next week, do we know our guest? We don't know our guest for next week yet, Danny.
Not yet. Mystery guest.
Mystery. Yeah, we will have a good one. By the way, we've had Hall of Famers. We got all pros. We're doing pretty good so far. Until next
love
week.
A good one.
Until next week, guys. Have a great one.
Take it easy.
Thanks, fellas.
Adios, man. You watch.